Welcome back to LePodcast, episode 65. You're here with Hoop and Saney, and unfortunately, once again, the spirit of Zini Huncho is with us. This is the Eastern Conference edition of our floor ceiling playoff series, starting from the bottom, the play-in tournament. You want to go first with our 10 seed? Is that Chicago?
You go first, because I went first last time.
All right, I have Chicago. They're based on the team construction. Obviously, Lonzo Ball is a very unfortunate case. I'm praying that he even just has an NBA career. But they should be in the first round of the playoffs with DeMar and Levine. They're in a win-now mode. They traded for Vooch, the whole deal. Based off how they're playing right now, it's not a super failure to lose to the Heat or the Hawks and not make the play-in, but my floor is more so based off the broader expectations of the team. I think they're a failure if they don't make the playoffs. So my floor is that they exit the first round and scrape a game off Milwaukee, whatever it is. My ceiling is the exact same. They lose round one. So sorry, Chicago. Love Pat Bev though. Love him. If anyone's gonna scrape a game off Milwaukee and celebrate it like it's the NBA Finals, it's Patrick Beverley.
It's Pat Bev. I agree with you there. And I have the same exact expectations for Chicago, but I tweaked it a little bit. I said that their floor is they make it to the first round and they get swept. My expectation is that they don't get a game in, if I'm being honest. And my ceiling is that they get one. So they'll lose 4-1 in the first round to Milwaukee.
That is tragic.
I mean, bro, think about it. If a team wants to get swept in the first round, what matchup would you think could be?
I agree.
Right? I'm just being a realist here. So if they win a game, I'll be like, hey, they exceeded my expectations, right? But I don't have many expectations for them, though. Defensively, they lack without Lonzo Ball. I know Caruso is like a all-NBA, I would say first-team guard defensively, but, I mean, it's the Bucks. It's the championship favorite, and it's a team that's barely scraping their way into the playoffs. So I'm going to say that's my expectations for them.
Number 9, the Toronto Raptors. My bottom expectation for them is to make the playoffs. They could get swept in round one. This is not a team that is built to win now with guys like DeRozan and Levine for Chicago. It's, they call it Operation 6-9 over there, where they play a bunch of forwards, whether it's Scotty Barnes. They have another point guard who doesn't play much, but Delano Banton. He showed out for like a 30-piece earlier in the season, and I thought he was the next coming of LeBron James. But they basically have Van Vliet, Gary Trent, who's like 6'4", and then they just run around with a bunch of forwards and try that, defensive versatility thing. It's great. They could cause an upset. I think their ceiling is to not upset Milwaukee or Boston, but they could take them to 6 at the maximum ceiling because Toronto does have playoff experience over there. But I'm not. Their floor should be not very high because they can. It's go big or go home. Like if Van Vliet goes 1 for 21 from the field, which has happened plenty this season, they're not going anywhere.
So you're being a little generous here saying that their floor is making the playoffs. I think their floor is they lose in the play-in. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs this season. And if I'm being real, I mean, at the start of the season, I had them in the play-in. That was my expectation for them, was for them to make the play-in. So they have, met my expectations in terms of what I thought they were going to do this season, which is be mid as a team. They have the pieces, but they need more. They need like a solidified start. They don't have that. I feel like Scotty Barnes.
Who they could use right now?
Kawhi.
No. The guy that they should have traded for. Kevin Durant.
Oh,
it
that
was
would
a Scotty
be insane.
For KD deal. Imagine, bro.
Dude, I'll say this too. Scotty is not panning out. Or like he did not take the jump that I thought he would take in his sophomore.
But yeah,
give him time for sure. But he's not doing what I thought he would by now. I thought he was going to be like on Evan Mobley level.
Scotty Barnes looks like he's fried wherever he goes.
Yeah,
his facial expressions, bro.
Well, it's legal in Canada, but I will say this: they're losing in the play-in, and my ceiling is that they lose in the first round to the Bucks. I will say this, though. If they make it to the first round, I think they do scrape a game. I don't see the Bulls scraping a game, but I see the Bulls making the playoffs. You know what I mean? But For some reason, I feel like the Raptors would do better against the Bucks.
Let's be real, Nick Nurse can win a game by himself.
But against Giannis too, right? But I don't know. I don't see them going far. And I feel like Nick Nurse honestly gave up on this team. I feel like he's gone next season too. Like, Raptors are not a mess, but they're definitely needing to go into a new direction.
Yeah, let's run through these next two play-in teams. They're playing tonight, by the way, the night of this recording. It's Tuesday, April 11th. They play in like an hour. The Atlanta Hawks. Once again, my floor is different from your floor because you're doing it based off your expectations of the team. I'm doing it based off the narrative expectations of where they should be as an organization. And when Trae Young runs their old coach out of town, they bring in Quinn Snyder. They add Sadiq Bey. They add DeJounte Murray in the offseason, who's bullying rookies, throwing the ball at their backs, whatever. They should make the playoffs. So their floor for me, they should be a playoff team. And their ceiling out round one in 6 games. Put up a fight. They're not winning.
Yeah, we disagree again because I think their floor is that they're losing in the play-in. They're losing tonight to Miami. I might eat those words if they somehow pull up an upset.
I think Miami is winning, but like I'm saying, they should win.
Sure, yeah. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, if we're talking about their offseason moves. But based on how the season panned out and what I see them as, they lose in the play-in, their ceiling, lose in the first round.
Back to Miami. This might be a hot take. I think Miami should make the finals.
Floor?
I think, well, once again, this is
your floor.
This is
not
my
your ceiling.
floor.
What?
Pat Riley sat on his hands. They were a shot away from being back.
Yep.
A shot away. That means you're a move away, a 1 or 2 moves away. They have Duncan Robinson. They have the same, rowdy group of undrafted guys. Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. They seem to have found an identity. They don't really add to it. Oladipo's still there. Kyle Lowry's there. And they could have done something at the deadline.
That's the perfect way.
They had picks. They had picks to move, and he sat on his hands.
That's the perfect way.
That's telling me that you're fine with this group, and with Jimmy Butler still aging, you're still ready to compete. And since you fell short last year, you were already in the finals. You should be back. If you still have belief in this group and you're not doing anything to change it, you should be back in the finals. That's their floor, but their ceiling is obviously not make the finals.
Wait,
I have them. The Heat's ceiling, I don't think they beat the Bucks. I think the Eastern Conference Finals. Their floor is higher than their ceiling.
I understand.
Their floor is higher.
That makes no sense.
Now you get it
to me.
Now you get it.
Now I get it, and that didn't make sense to me at first. Okay, now I understand how you're going about it.
Yes.
So your floor is what you expect them. Your ceiling is what you think the peak will happen.
Exactly.
So your peak is your expectation, or your ceiling is your peak expectation. Your floor is what is expected.
Yes.
I did not know that's how you were doing it. I'll be honest. Last episode. Okay. No, thank you for clarifying that. That makes a lot more sense.
You thought I was a buffoon the entire time.
Yeah, the whole time I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Well,
I thought you wanted to continue finishing. Sorry, I think I butted in.
I just had their ceiling lower than their floor.
Oh, that's it. They're just going to lose to the Bucks. That's it. Okay.
I think they lose the East Conference Finals, yes.
Okay. So we have the same ceiling. I have them making the Eastern Conference Finals and losing. That's what I think they can do this season. So me and you are there on the ceiling side of things. My floor is them losing to the Celtics in the first round. I'm expecting them to lose to the Celtics. I'm expecting the Celtics to do, well, we'll talk about the Celtics shortly here. But my peak for them is that if they can beat the Celtics, in my opinion, they can beat anybody not named the Milwaukee Bucks. And they lose to the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But, I mean, if we want to move on to the Nets.
Brooklyn has nothing to be ashamed of. They could get swept, and I'd be totally fine with it. I'm happy they're in the playoffs, and they kept some momentum going even after the big trade.
Somebody said they wouldn't be.
I probably said they were falling out the playoffs because that was a logical thing to say. I didn't know Mikal Bridges would magically average 10 more points a game. I didn't know that was going to happen.
I stayed 10 toes, and you go back on the episode when we talked about him. I stayed 10 toes, and I said Mikal Bridges will lead them to a playoff spot and not a play-in spot. That man is going to the playoffs. I stayed 10 toes. And I said 6 seed, too. I said the Knicks will go over them, but they'll stay at the 6 seed. And look where they're at now.
Well, I'm still rooting for them. I hope they scrape a game or two off Philly, which, is definitely possible. But their ceiling is... I said round 2. Hey, Philly's a wild card, man. You don't know if Embiid gets like a bruised cheekbone and he magically just shoots 4 for 25, or Doc Rivers decides to not guard someone in the corner like a Budenholzer move. I've seen it all. So their ceiling is magically make round 2 and then lose in 4.
I agree with you there. I have the exact same ceiling and floor as you do, so I'm not really going to go in depth. They get bounced out in the first round.
Ball knowledge.
Ceiling, they get bounced out in the second round. Because like you said, the 76ers, man, they're either the best team in NBA history or, they're the 2008, 2009 Washington Wizards. I don't know what else. There's no in between, right? But
who was on that squad? Is that Gilbert?
I don't know. I just randomly named it. I'm assuming
You're
they
definitely
were mid.
dissing like a decent
I'm assuming
team
they were
right
mid.
there.
Let me see. Let's see the record actually while you talk about.
Hold up, because I'm pretty sure it might have been later, but I think it's Gilly, Deshaun Stevenson, Caron Butler, Antoine Jameson.
Oh, screw up. They were 19 and 63. They're not.
Oh.
No, we're not talking about no. We're not talking about no disrespect.
That's
the worst record in today's NBA other than the Pistons.
Oh, that's the year before the John Wall deal.
That's I was gonna say
drafting.
Yeah.
So
it's the most random insult I've ever given a team. By the way.
Yo, the Wizards suck, man.
So we got the Knicks next, right? Ooh.
My very own. They should take as a floor. They should take the Cavs to 6. Stephen A. Smith, once again, I want to disown him as a Knicks fan. He said that it's a failure if we don't beat Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. He is just full of it.
He always is.
Yeah, there's no shame in losing to a great team. They're better than us on paper. I just think we can play better under more pressured situations. I think Jalen Brunson under the bright lights can turn into someone that's higher than his normal self. And I love the defense we bring and the depth we have with Josh Hart and Isaiah Hartenstein. A lot of quality pieces that I feel like the Cavs are missing behind their stars. So I think our ceiling is we scrape 2 games off the Bucks. That's like a mega ceiling. I think we lose to the Bucks eventually in round 2. If it was the Celtics, that's a different story. But with the Cavs, I think our floor is to take them to 6. I do think we're winning the series, though.
So me and you disagree, but you're going to be happy I disagree with you because my floor is that I'm actually expecting the Knicks to go to the second round. I think that's the bare minimum, what I expect from the squad.
So would you be disappointed in the Knicks if they didn't? What about the Cavs, though?
The Cavs are great, don't get me wrong, but I think at this point in especially Julius Randle's career, right, where we've seen him go to the playoffs, he slipped up, but fair enough. It was his first time as a first option in the playoffs. The Knicks weren't as good back then. Julius Randle wasn't as gifted offensively. He has a different game now, right? Then you bring in a guy like Jalen Brunson who's experienced. He went to the Western Conference Finals last year, and that's a hard thing to do, right? And he turned up, and he's been turning up all season. And then you have all these guys who, bro, I can name you a bunch of players on the Knicks that I've seen randomly drop 30 one random night. Like, we know these are guys that can be trusted.
Against the Pacers, Grimes, Toppin, and Quickly all went for 30 plus.
30s, exactly, right?
Same
so
night.
I will say this, and the thing that separates a playoff team and a great playoff team for me is their bench depth. And they said it best on that episode of The Old Man and the Three with Richard Jefferson, where a playoff series can really be decided by the 7th, 8th, and 9th man, right? It's all about depth. And I think the Knicks have a better team than the Cavs, if I'm being honest. Like, the Cavs on paper look great, but outside of their starting lineup, I'm not as impressed as I am with the New York Knicks, right? And that's why I think the Knicks starting lineup, while I do think the Cavs have a better starting lineup, I think the Knicks starting lineup can go toe-to-toe with that lineup, right? And then when you bring in their depth, I think the Knicks have more energy. They have more firepower when it comes to what they're going to have in their arsenal off the bench. And that's why I ultimately think it's going to be a scrappy series. I'm not saying they should dominate, and I'm not going to be like, oh, if the Knicks take them to 7, they're a failure, blah, 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 right? Like, it's not. If it goes to 7, I wouldn't be surprised. These are 2 evenly matched teams, in my opinion. But I would take the Knicks only because they have 2 All-NBA caliber players. They're not lacking defensively. They have great bench depth. And the Cavaliers, man, they rely a lot on Mitchell and Garland, right? If they don't show up, what happens? But the Knicks have other pieces they can fall back on. So I got to give it to the Knicks in terms of who I think wins that series. And my expectation is they do win that series. And I'll be disappointed, man, because if I see another Julius Randle first-round exit, it's a discussion that needs to be had in New York.
I'm going to be disappointed, but like,
it's a discussion.
I guess it's more so the way they lose. Let's say if Mitchell goes out and it's 45 every night, and Brunson and Randle play well, they try their best, but they fall short. I'm not crazy upset because if we had there's still a weakness in the team, and I hate to be that guy, but it's RJ Barrett, like, quite clearly.
Easily.
So if we know our deficiencies and we can kind of expect what's going to happen and Cleveland just plays their best and we fall, I'm fine with that. It's more so if Cleveland leaves stuff on the table and we don't take advantage and we lose, then that's
like
very
that Atlanta
disappointing.
Hawks series.
Yes. Yes.
And my ceiling is the same as yours. I think they give the Bucks a run for their money, but ultimately they fall short. But I got big expectations for the Knicks, man, because at this point it's like Julius Randle is probably nearing the peak, if not is at his peak, in terms of his NBA career. Jalen Brunson, I wouldn't say he's peaked yet, but this is like a peak squad for the Knicks since like the Melo days, right? I would say this is probably your guys' best team in the last 10 years. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Yeah, no, definitely. You'd have to go back to 2013.
And even then, it's a discussion when you go back to 2013 because they had a young JR, a young Iman Shumpert, an old Amari Stoudemire.
They beat Boston in the
Melo.
first round, I believe, and then it was.
But that was an old Boston team. Like
Yeah.
that was like Garnett and
Yeah.
Pierce when they were getting traded to the Nets, right? Like I'm not. This is the best Knicks team I've seen in the last 10 years. I am expecting big things out of them. But if we want to move on to the Cavs,
Yeah, with the Cavaliers, I think it's very similar as far as their floor and ceiling. I think they should not be crazy upset if Randall plays all NBA caliber in the playoffs, which, they can't really expect. If they lose in a way that's honorable, it's completely fine, their first round exit, because they got a lot of young guys without playoff experience. It's just year one, a lot of things to look up to. And their ceiling would be, I think they're built a little more for the Bucks. I'd say take another game off the Bucks. I don't think they beat them, but they could take them to 6 or 7.
7. You think the Cavs could take the Bucks to 7?
I'm saying in a dream world. We're saying a ceiling.
In a dream
I'm just
world.
saying
Yeah.
with
Ceiling,
Mobley and Allen, they have better personnel than the Knicks to take on Giannis.
And my issue with the Bucks is they don't shoot enough threes, and they're not like, you know what I mean? Like they're not. I don't see them as a huge threat from the perimeter. And then when you have perimeter or guys who can defend in the paint or in the interior, like Mobley, Allen, they're going to give Giannis a run for his money. So I can see why you think they scrape off an extra game. But I'm not going to go in depth with the Cavs since I already talked about that series. I'll just say the ceiling's the same as the Knicks for me, and the floor is that they get bounced out in the first round. I think the Knicks win that series.
One can pray. Man, I can't wait.
We got to go in depth with these last 3 teams, man.
It's going to be so exciting.
We zoomed through 10 and 4, but these last 3 we can talk about for a while, so I think we should.
Man, Philly's got to be in the finals, bro.
Yeah.
They got
Seriously.
James Harden in shape to start the season, talking about a new vegan diet or whatever. He brings on his puppy and PJ Tucker to guard playoff stars.
Oh, PJ Tucker is terrible.
Joel Embiid's been talking smack about the MVP and expectation, and you could put up all the advanced stats you want, but you don't win.
Tyrese Maxey
taking shots at Ben Simmons. Oh, now we have a squad. They signed Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler for whatever reason, which means you have high expectations for this squad. You have Doc Rivers, who was apparently, according to ESPN or whatever it was, like a top 10 coach of all time. You should win the finals, bro. Forget make the finals. You should win the finals.
Let's backtrack here, okay? Number 1, Doc Rivers is not a top 10 coach of all time.
No, he's not.
Let's take a big stop, okay? I would put a guy like freaking Budenholzer over
Oof.
Doc Rivers. No, like seriously, like I love Doc Rivers. I don't hate, the one thing I love about hating on NBA players is that it sounds so much like that I have hatred for them. I don't hate
I
these
love
people.
hating.
I love hating the basketball side of things, but as people, I'm sure they're great people.
He's
so
a great
they're listening to this,
motivational speaker, and when he's
Yes.
mic'd up, he sounds great in developing young people and giving them confidence.
and sounds
but the
like
man
Cookie
cannot
Monster.
coach.
And sounds like Cookie Monster. But I will say this, okay? I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating on the guy. Personally, I love the guy. He has great values, whatever. I'm just saying, in my time, I have witnessed Doc Rivers do some questionable things time and time again. And that's why we're not even going to, I don't want him to be in that top 10 coaches of all time discussion, because I feel like a lot of his success as a coach doesn't come from his coaching side, but comes from how good his team was. Because he's had some amazing teams. Like, let's be honest, like his one
Paul
ring
Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen,
in
Rajon
their prime
Rondo.
was Rondo, and then with the
Really?
Clippers, the fact that he never went to the Western Conference Finals once with the Clippers is the biggest reason why I'm keeping him out of that top 10 list. You were up 3-1 on multiple occasions with that squad. You did not get the job done. You had prime Blake, prime Chris Paul, prime DeAndre Jordan, an amazing bench depth. Like, that's the biggest thing about championship teams. That's what separates them, is their bench depth. Do you remember that photo where it was like 9 guys that all at one point were a number 1 option on the team, and they didn't do anything?
They had like Hidu, Danny Granger,
dude, Josh Smith. At some point they had like Eric Gordon and Eric Bledsoe off the, like, it's some random key players that you just like, what happened? But anyway, I will say this. My floor for the 76ers, I'm expecting them to go to the conference finals. You expect them to go to the finals. I think I want them to go to the finals because I'm getting sick of this.
I expect them to win the finals.
I expect them to go to the conference finals. If you're talking that much, bro. If you talk it, I agree. No, I agree. But I expect them to go to the conference finals and lose to the Bucks. I expect them to win that matchup against the Celtics. Because time and time again, the Celtics have embarrassed the 76ers. I'll beat them. Embarrassed. So I need...
Boston owns Philly. It's
exactly.
Bad.
So we need Philly to beat Boston because I can't... people say this about Jokic where it's like, where's his playoff success? What does he do here and there? Oh, Jokic is a regular season guy, or, I don't put him amongst the greats because he doesn't have playoff success, yada, yada, yada. Where's that energy for Joel Embiid, right? Where's that energy for Joel Embiid? What separates Joel Embiid from Jokic?
This era is a bunch of frauds, bro.
It's a bunch of... No, it's not a bunch of frauds. It's the same 2 guys going to the finals. But my ceiling is that they win the finals. I agree with you. Like, they should be winning the finals. That should be their goal heading into this playoff run. It should be ring or nothing. Obviously, that's every team's goal. But Philly is really like, they're my top 3 teams that should 100% win the finals.
Especially, like, we keep talking, I keep talking about the off-season expectations and how, they're going about it, but they have so much dynamic talent on their team,
Insane.
Which is such, like...
They're insane.
Which is such a valuable thing to have. Like, on the Knicks, it's Brunson, Randall, Emmanuel Quickley, guys that can, like, break down a defense and make plays. They have James Harden, who's one of the best in the league at doing that, leads the league in assists. Joel Embiid at the center position. That's rare to have that. Tyrese Maxey can break down a defense. Tobias Harris has a bag. I mean, he's kind of just
Tyrese
there.
Maxey quietly has 20 points per game on 48 and 43 percentages.
I'm saying they have guys who could do a lot, and a lot of those guys. But for whatever reason, it just never comes together. So if there's another rinky-dink injury to Joel Embiid's forearm, or something else just magically goes wrong, it's no longer a coincidence. This is the year to prove it. You need to be... I say they should be in the finals. You got to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. You got to be.
Easily. And if they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals, no, seriously, if they get bounced out the second round, I don't care if it's to the Celtics. I don't care if it's to the team
Harden's
that just went to the
getting a
finals
bag in
last year.
Houston.
They have to leave. They have to break that up because guess what? If you're not making it past the second round, what other pieces can you add realistically? They have 3 guys that can all score over 20 points per game. 4 if you want to include Tobias Harris, considering the money he's making, right? They have all these little bench pieces that they brought in. They have a top 10 coach of all time, and they have arguably, if not top 3, or if not top 2, top 3 player in the world, right? They have all the they have checked off all the criteria that a championship team needs. But you know what they haven't checked off? A playoff win. So I need to see that happen. Because this is getting ridiculous. Your G League team is out here winning rings. Your G League team is winning rings, bro. Your G League team is winning rings. Where's your ring? There's no way the only banner that gets hung up is a Blue Coats banner. Like, come on, man.
That's
Mac
crazy.
McClung, at this point, as of April 11th, at 7:47 p.m. Atlantic time, Mac McClung has done more for the city of Philadelphia than Joel Embiid has. Just remember that. Just remember that. But if we want to move on to
he won the dunk contest too. This is not
no, he did more for the city of Philadelphia.
A dunk contest and a ring.
What else do you need? What else do you need? But if we want to move on to the Celtics,
man, I wish that the Celtics were the first seed because the streets need a Knicks Celtics playoff series. But now that they're the 2 seed, I think their floor is losing the Eastern Conference Finals in 7. With Joe Mazzulla, my personal expectation for the team was that they take a slight knock. They're not, obviously they've been in the playoffs a ton, but they're not this Warriors level proven team that should be able to win under any circumstance. They're still being battle tested. So with the whole Mazzulla thing, I'm giving them grace in that, you don't need to, even though you made it last year, you don't need to be back if you lose a tough fought battle to the Milwaukee Bucks. That's what I'm expecting. I'm sure Celtics fans would say they need to be in the finals and probably win it for it to be a successful season. But in my eyes, if you're still at that caliber and Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum get their bags and they re-sign and they run it back again, I think they're in good position. Their ceiling is obviously win the finals. We see the right Celtics team where Jason Tatum is not just chucking up threes. He's being efficient both in the mid-range and just every level of the floor. And they're not the new age Houston Rockets, then we can see them win the finals. I'm not that I'm banking on it, but definitely possible.
I kind of want to go a little bit in depth here with the Celtics because a lot of people are going to hate on what I have to say when I say this, and I will address this. I understand that the Celtics are a better team than what they were last season, right? A key addition was Malcolm Brogdon. Derek White has stepped up defensively. I'm hoping that Jason Tatum stays consistent throughout the playoffs because I know he had a bit of a, little slip up here and there last year with, NBA leader in turnovers in a postseason run, whatever. I will say this. My floor for them and my expectation is that they don't make it to the conference finals. I think it's going to be a Sixers-Bucks conference finals. That's what I expect it to be because I think Philly has a much bigger chip on their shoulder because I get the Celtics just went to the finals, but they have time as a team. Philly, in my opinion, this is do or die for them because it's like if they don't get it done this season,
do you expect Philly to win? Or are you hoping?
I don't hope anything. I don't care about Philly and what Joel Embiid does. I'm not hoping. I'm expecting. I'm like,
no,
in my heart, I'm like,
you just said before that Boston beats Philly every time.
Boston, no, so exactly. So I expect Philly to beat them. That's why I said, why I said my floor for Philly is they bounce on the conference finals because Boston has wiped them every time.
If they have any dignity, they should.
If they want to have any dignity, if they want to have any dignity as a franchise, if Joel Embiid wants to have any imprint on his legacy, right? Because you can bring up, he got robbed for MVPs. No, he didn't. He didn't get robbed. It was just a close battle. This isn't a Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant situation where you can make a legitimate argument. Yes, I can argue that Joel Embiid could have gotten the MVP that season, but you can also argue that Nikola Jokic absolutely deserved it. All right? So right now, Joel Embiid's legacy is on the line. Because it's if you lose to the Celtics again, bro, you're going to the playoffs every season and losing to the exact same teams. So I think that the Celtics lose in the second round. I think the Sixers pull out a win, and I think they get bounced out. In the Celtics ceiling, if they would beat the Sixers, I think they win the finals. I think they win the whole thing.
I was listening to a pod the other day. I couldn't tell you which one it was because I rotate through a couple. But the reason I brought up they're the New Age Rockets before is because Mazzulla is like the extremist of what Ime Udoka was. And I never really thought about it, but I could totally see it because Jason Tatum has completely diluted the mid-range diet out of his shot selection. And it's a large reason as to why their second half struggles have jumped up at them. I looked at the Eastern Conference standings just for the second half. Obviously, the Celtics are still in good standing overall, but I think they were like 4th or 5th. And it's a large part because the shooting woes of their stars, whether it's on a night-to-night basis or streaky, it's because of the three-pointers. And when I was at the game, it was the Knicks versus the Celtics. This was a double OT thriller with Quickly and whatnot. It was just ISO, and then it's the New Age Rockets, where you have two guys that are very dynamic, but the only other option is to drive and kick. And there's none of this because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both have mid-range strengths. And in the playoffs, you need those. For the regular season, you could get by and win 60 games every year because it's such an efficient style of offense. And I don't want to say this Mazzulla guy is a nerd in that sense, but he seems like a just very bought in on the analytics. And he's not really sure that he's not, knowledgeable or experienced enough to know that Jason Tatum should be working on this to get to the playoffs. Because when the defense tightens up and, Drew Holiday and these good perimeter defenders are out locking people
Closing
up,
out on you.
You gotta hit that mid-range shot. And Tatum can. They have a bunch of guys who can. But you gotta utilize that
from the mid-range.
He can turn up. He did it last year in Game 6. It was turnaround fadeaway. Like if you make it a one-on-one game and you have that good of a player, it's very hard to beat that guy. But if you're just gonna swing around the perimeter and just chuck it up, if Al Horford doesn't shoot 45%, you're screwed. So that's why they're so volatile.
I I agree with everything you said. That's actually a very interesting way to look at it, that they're the new age Rockets. That was not a perspective.
And they weren't last year.
Yeah, no. Yeah, like, it really is. Also, did you see that Udoka might get signed by the Rockets? Ironically enough. But
that would be crazy.
Let's go to the cherry on top of this episode, man. My personal favorite for the whole season.
Milwaukee. They should make the finals.
Yep.
And they should win the finals.
Yep. I wrote the exact same thing. Floor, make the finals. Ceiling, win the finals.
If they lose to KD and the Suns are magically just this well-oiled machine, and they lose in 7, not the end of the world, you lose to KD and something like that, you know.
And the Suns get back on you.
Yeah, I'm not totally upset. But you got to make the finals, for sure.
100%. 100%. Milwaukee, fully healthy, will never have an excuse to not make the finals so long as that team stays together. You have potentially 3 All-NBA defensive players on that team with Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Brook Lopez,
who can
which
hold
I
the
believe
depoy votes.
Yeah, well, I believe they will all make it. Arguably a 4th pick in Javon Carter, if you really want to get... Javon Carter doesn't have the same volume, but if we really want to be realistic here, right? Like, they have an amazing defensive team. Offensively, they lack on the perimeter. I get that. But when you're that good defensively and you have the best player in the world, and you have a Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday backing them up, and you have a Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, and Javon Carter and Lindell Wigginton and all these guys off the bench. I don't care. I don't care that you're not shooting from the perimeter as much as other teams. I really don't.
Is Joe healthy? Joe Ingles?
Joe Ingles. Oh, my God. I forgot that man existed.
That's such a great playoff piece.
Joe Ingles. Oh, yeah, he's playing. He played 18 minutes.
Dude. That team should win the final.
There will be a... That's a hard team.
Joe Ingles is such a cold playoff piece.
I don't think there needs to be much discussion on the Bucks. I think we're nearing the end of the episode here. I know this was a bit of a short one, but the
other X factor we didn't talk about was Gallinari for the Celtics. That could be interesting as well.
He's not coming. I don't think he'll come.
No.
Back.
Okay.
Even if he does, like, imagine implementing him in the playoffs.
I think that's counterproductive. Dudes in the Discord was saying, the Celtics have been ramping him up and they're, practicing with him.
Yeah,
I was like, that's kind of...
I like Gallinari. He played for OKC. He's a great player.
He had that
but
crazy
he's not gonna play
haircut on the Hawks.
Yeah.
You remember that? It was a stripe down the middle of his head.
Yeah. He's a cool guy, man. He's like a big team guy. Like, if you follow him on Instagram, he's like very passionate about whatever team he's on. He's like Dennis Schroeder. Them Europeans love their franchises. But, we didn't have Z here, which is why the episode was a little bit more short. We had difficulties with getting Z on today. But
why we didn't argue.
That wraps up the series just in time for the playoffs, which is good, considering the play-in is starting in about 30 minutes. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be, we'll probably find out.
You got Atlanta or Miami? What's the score?
I got Miami, but let's talk about Lakers or Timberwolves because we didn't talk about the West real quick. What's your prediction on that?
Oh, yeah. If they still had Pat Bev in a 1-game situation, I'd say the Timberwolves have a shot. I'm giving it to Mr. James. I'd love to see Ant-Man come out and drop 50.
You want to see something controversial?
What's up?
I think this is Ant's legacy game. I think the Lakers lose.
I hope so, because he's about to rot in Minnesota if they don't figure something out.
I think the Lakers lose. I think they're going to figure it out. And you know what? I think I could just see it in my head. After all the stuff, Rudy Gobert goes out. I feel like Rudy Gobert not playing for them is going to be beneficial, by the way. I think it's even better for them. But Rudy Gobert being out, Jared Vanderbilt breaking his hand, all this stuff, and Ant still pulls through. Like, I can see the headlines in the Stars right now. You know what I mean? Like,
and all that going on. He's just sitting on the bench, head
and
down.
Anthony Edwards still does it, and then that's when we're like, all right, we need to start talking about Ant's place in the league because this man this. I already think he's headed to that superstar level.
I think he's already top 20, and he took the jump that a lot of people didn't recognize because it didn't show up in the box score right away. But defensively,
and he's on the Timberwolves.
And as a scoring output playmaker, when D'Lo, he went down right before he got traded. I feel like there was a point, there was a cat where he just had more of an offensive load. That's where he really picked up. When he eventually got the All-Star nod. I'm really hyped for him. So I'm a big Ant fan.
Well, that wraps up the end of this episode. This was a great series. I'm kind of liking this direction we head into where we go more in depth on the
I
those
like it too.
episodes.
Can I just mention one thing? I have been holding my mic stand up for the last 10 minutes because it fell off the hinges, but I still want it to come through. So I just want to say that my hand
that's that
really
game
hurts right
six.
now.
That's that
But
game six
yeah,
2012
I'm
hoop.
in my element.
2012 game six hoop. That's what. Make sure to join the Discord. We've been having a lot of fun on the big stage. I know we're not posting them to YouTube, but we ultimately decided that in terms of not violating anything, so we can still have potential to be monetized, there was an inappropriate gesture made by somebody in the first episode, which we could not monitor. So we will be not posting them on YouTube because of you trolls. But it is still a super fun time. I mean, I'm not sure who would want to rewatch them anyway. It's all about being in the moment when it comes to the big stage. So every Monday night, we all hop on. It's a really fun time. We went over our all NBA teams last episode, which was really fun.
Which we're going to expose next episode.
We're going to expose. Yeah, we're going to make it so we're implementing it into the show as well, of course. But make sure to join the Discord, discord.gg/LePodcast. If that doesn't work, just click the links in any of our bios. And other than that, we appreciate you listening to this episode, and we will see you for episode 66, 1/3 or 2/3 of the way to episode 100.
Let's go, Knicks.
LeBron James will be our episode 100, maybe. Peace.